הבהרה, התוכן המשודר מבוסס על עדויות אישיות של מרואיינים אשר נאמרו על דעתם בלבד. אין לראות בתוכן משום המלצה כלשהי לרבות המלצה רפואית ו/או נפשית, ואין לראות בו משום עידוד לביצוע פעולות כלשהן.
Iands Israel. החיים שאחרי החיים.
שלום וברוכים הבאים לפודקאסט המצולם של Iands Israel. היום נמצא איתנו כריס באטס. לכריס היו חיים מורכבים. החיים המורכבים שלו הביאו אותו לככה שהוא ניסה להתאבד.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for having me here.
It's a pleasure to have you here.
Okay, so this is how it started. I was 6 months old, and this is where the root of my whole suicidal thoughts had started. My mom was on her way to a modeling career, and when she got pregnant, that just ruined everything. And I guess she felt like angry at me because she got pregnant. But so at 6 months old, she threw me in a local neighborhood dumpster and just left. So one of the neighbors just happened to be taking out the trash, and they heard a baby in the dumpster crying. And they said, "Oh my God, like, I know this baby. This is like, I know his mom." So of course my mom wasn't there, and she knew my grandma was at church. So she called my grandma, told her, "You need to come, stop what you're doing and come, because I have your grandson. He was in the trash can." So from there, my grandma had me. She took my mom to court, and the judge told her she could never have me again. So I started staying with my grandma. I was 4 years old when my grandma had a nervous breakdown. And from what I heard, is because of my mom. So she had a nervous breakdown. She was in the hospital for a year straight. And from this moment on, I was in between a couple places. I ended up finally staying with my mom's sister. And from what I know, this is a sister that she hated the most. Like, the sister couldn't stand her. But she offered to take me in because they were going to get a check every month. So she said, "Well, I'll just take him." I stayed at this place till I was about 13 years old. I hated it. It was a horrible experience. They treated me very bad. There was other kids in the house, but there was one in particular that was closer to my age. The other ones were older and just left. And I was like really young to really know about them. But the one that was there was just really like a sort of a bully. And I would always get in trouble because I stood up for myself. Like, I didn't know how to like back down, you know. I remember at 4 years old, I told myself, I'm like, I'm going to raise myself because like I don't have any guy around here to like that I want to be like. So I'm going to raise myself and teach myself how to live. How did I know that at 4 years old? I don't know, but I wasn't 5. So I remember. So I was there at this house. We went to church all the time. I had a different perspective of God than what I was taught, because I was a Baptist Christian, and also we went to Pentecostal churches as well, a couple Catholic churches with other people. But this particular family was Baptist Christian, and we went to church every Sunday and sometimes during the week. They teach you basically like if you sin, or if you like sin, then you're going to burn like for eternity if you do one bad thing wrong, you know? So I'm like, that kind of scared me as a kid. Like, I don't want to burn for eternity. Who does? So it kind of scared me, like, in so many ways. And then with that home, I didn't have any self-esteem. And they're always telling me, like, how fat I was and, like, how, like, retarded I was and a bunch of stuff like that. They didn't really make me feel that good. While their kid had, like, all the self-esteem, I was the one without self-esteem. So that affected me. And then I was about 8 years old. I went to visit my favorite uncle, which he's not even a blood relative, but he's just an uncle that loved me more than everybody and ever has. So this one right here, I was at his house and I didn't want to tell him I was depressed. So at 8, I went in the bathroom, cut myself. That's like when my suicidal thoughts start coming. So I don't know how I even really knew to just get a knife and cut my skin, but I just knew. Like, it's not even something I seen on TV. I just knew to do it. I see about the time. Oh, and I started writing music about maybe I was 10 years old or 9 or something. I started writing music to take out my frustration so they wouldn't see like the scars on my arm. So like I got to take out my frustration somehow. So I put it in music. And it was like natural. I just started writing and I got better and better. And it just, a couple years later, I'm visiting my grandma one weekend. These guardians that I'm living with, they actually called her and said, we went through his stuff and found some lyrics that he wrote, and they were bad lyrics about us, which is true. I have wrote a lot of bad stuff about them because of how unhappy I was. And it's not like I can talk to them because all they would do is just laugh at me or something like that. It was like a lot of abuse, like mental, physical abuse, you know, especially like emotional abuse. It sucks. It messes with you even when you get older. And so by the time I left there, I just ended up staying with another family member for a couple years. And then I went to another family member. This last family member I went to, they were just as bad as the homes I came from. The thing was though, like this was around my high school years. So I didn't really have low self-esteem then because I was more like really popular in high school. So it was more like I love school. School, like that's where my family was school. And it was like getaway. Then when I got home, I'm like, all right, like life sucks again, you know? The aunt I lived with had this big mirror that she would hang up on the wall. And between her room and the living room, because I didn't have my room, so it was just, I was in the living room. So her room's right here, the living room's right here. And she would always be able to see through this mirror to look at everything I'm doing from her bedroom. So she didn't have to like keep getting up to see what am I doing. So it was like really no privacy. She would block the sink in the bathtub so that I couldn't like run the water and like take a bath. So I would like literally like bird bath in the actual sink, you know, for a while. And yeah, so it's like people knew about this in the family, but they didn't really care or anything. So I say by the time, but I didn't really care. Like all these things were happening, but it was just school was so amazing. Like my friends were cool. I was popular. I was happy. But by the time high school was over, my friends started going off doing things themselves, like, and their families were there to help them do everything, like to get their first jobs and their first cars and their first apartments. You know what I mean? And me, I'm like, I literally didn't have that. Like, here I am, like walking to the bus stop, like going to the county building to get like a couple hundred every month, you know, and like having like no money when it's hot outside for something to drink. I didn't have that. I didn't have that support that most people had. So like literally I had to do everything by myself. While other family members, their kids are off they're helping buying houses and all this stuff. And I'm like, so my friends have it, my other family members have it. How come I don't have it? Like, I want that support too. So I was kind of like angry at God, I guess, that I would be in situations like that. Like, how do you say you love me, but you see how unfair things are, but yet you don't care enough to help me out? Like, it just didn't make sense. So I started getting suicidal thoughts again a few years after high school. Started like drinking and popping pills and stuff like that every day. But then I got bored after a few months. The way my mind works, I guess sometimes I get bored easily. So I got bored of all that. So I was like, okay, this stuff isn't making me happy. I need another outlet to be happy. Like spiritually happy. Certain people in my life just didn't know I was always in search of that love. Like I always longed for love. And so I was just feeling more suicidal and kept it quiet. A lot of people didn't know. I told maybe a couple people, but yeah, of course they would judge me and stuff like that, say I'm crazy, whatever. So I basically one day went to the train station and just sat there like all day waiting for the trains to come by. So I'm like, you know what? Because I was thinking of certain ways. I'm like, I want to kill myself. So certain ways. So I thought of like all these certain ways. And one of the most like biggest ways that stuck out to me was when I was at the train station. I was like, let me go in front of a train, let it come by and just boom, it just hits me. That way it'd be quick and fast. And I didn't want to like drown myself because I didn't really like want to drown in water. So I timed all these trains, and I already had my plan. I'm like, I'm out of here. So I'm at a friend's house of mine. We're arguing, having a long argument. They go in the bathroom, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm out of here. I leave their house. I'm walking. Little they know I'm walking to this train station so I can get hit. But out of nowhere, I hear their car honking when I'm a few blocks away, and they're like, "Get in the car, get in the car." So I get in the car. Now, it just so happens I haven't talked to my mom in so many years. In the last talk we had, she said, like, well, don't ask about me because I don't want you. Like, I don't want you. I never have wanted you. So, okay, she's like, you just better be grateful I let you live. Like, that's literally what she told me. Like, I let you live. I didn't get an abortion. You owe me, like, because I saved you. So that's, like, basically the last talk we had. So as I'm in my friend's car, out of all the times, she calls. And I don't even know how she got my number, but she said my grandma gave her my number, and she just wanted to tell me that, stop. I heard you were asking about me. If I talk to your grandma, just don't ask about me. I don't want you. I never have. I'm not your mom. So I looked at the phone and I said, well, F you, you never were. And then I rolled down the window, tossed it out. So as my friend made a right turn, they're just going more up the street. I look at them, and then under my breath, it just happened so fast. I was like, F this. And then I just opened the door, jumped out. So that's basically where my near-death experience started right there. So I remember the back of my head, like, boom, like this boom sound. And there was like this muffled boom on the concrete. And it felt like familiar, like it was painful, but it felt familiar. So I'm trying to get up, literally like yank myself out my body, but I didn't know I was doing that. I thought I was just getting up. But as soon as I get up, I'm hearing all these people like, I wouldn't do that if I were you. I wouldn't do that if I were you. So I'm like, I do it anyway. So I get up and I'm like, how is my body laying right here, but I'm standing right here? I was like, maybe I'm seeing things. So I was like, well, maybe I could be in two places at once. Let's see how far I could walk. So I started walking, like maybe took about 3 steps. And then before you know it, I'm just in the midair. So what ended up happening was there was like nothing really around. What people call nothingness, that's literally what it was, just like a bunch of different colors. And that's when I felt the most divine presence that, it's God, source, whatever you want to call it. It's the most divine, strongest presence you've ever felt. So when it's there, you just know. And so I'm like, whoa. So all of my thoughts were like, I had a lot of questions. And they were answered literally in order as I was thinking them. So what I had got was, let me reintroduce myself to you. Yeah, I didn't believe in angels as it was. So I'm like, well, maybe he's trying to set me up because I didn't read the King James Bible. I'm going to burn. So like my whole emotion was just scared. I'm like, you don't know me. I'm like, I don't deserve to be here. I don't deserve to be here. And he's like, I love you. Like, I want you like how you are now. I'm like, no, let me go back to earth. Let me go get perfect. And then I'll come back and then see you. And he's like, no, like, I want you now. Like, so basically starts explaining his characteristics to me. And it's, all these words were just popping up in the air. So one of the words were loving. The other word said caring. And then one of the other ones, I'm all capitals, exclamation points at the end, long suffering. And I looked at that and I remembered that word when I was a kid, and they used it in church, like long suffering, meaning like I'll wait as long as I can until like you understand that I love you. Like that's what the meaning of long suffering. So then I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do if I go back and tell people like I see you, they're going to think I'm crazy, and then go and tell everyone that I love them. Then he says, I will go to the end of the world so that everyone is with me. And I'm like, whoa, like that is deep. Like that's like the greatest poetry I've ever heard. So then I'm like, well, what's going to happen? Like, well, what about, and before I can ask about like the evil one, the devil, whatever, before I'm finished with the statement, it's like, I just like feel a hand turn this way, and I look, I'm like, oh wow, like it was this like snake wrapped in chains. It was crazy. So then I see this projection screen pop up, and here's a like a skateboarder guy passing by. He says, "I love him." Then here's this prostitute that walks by, and he says, "I love her." Then here's this guy with the suit on and a briefcase, real businessman, and he's like, "I love him." So I took from that he loves us all the same, and he doesn't have like any favorites, you know. So after that, it's okay. Like he says, like, you know, after he said, "Go and tell everyone I love them," what ended up happening was, like, boom. I didn't see God. I'm just going to clarify that, but I felt the presence. I literally felt him get down on a knee and like give me a hug. And like the hug was really tight. I felt the fingers, I felt the arms and everything. And then I felt when it let go. So then now I'm midair. Like, okay, now I'm looking at the clouds. I'm looking at everything around me. So now here's everything. I can see everything, and here's angels around that I can visually see. So I just remember my thoughts were getting the best of me because I didn't read the Bible anymore. I mean, because of being scared of it. And so all these Bibles just start flying in the air, and crosses just start flying in the air. I knew that was because of my thought, though. I realized it. So then I look, and I literally see angels everywhere, like in a circle. But there was these two particular that I just realized that they seemed so familiar. So the one on my right side, or should I say the left one, that's where I looked first, was the left. The one on my left side was more like his face was kind of small. Like it reminded me like of a beetle or something. But there was so much light to it that I couldn't really look for too long. It was like looking at the sun. Like I had to like look away like that because there was so much light. The wings were really wide, and he looked like he was about 8'6", something like that. So then I look, and he says, "Are you sure you want to go?" So then he seemed kind of like really stern, and it scared me. And I look to my right, and then here's this other angel. This one's more human than anything. So I look at him, I'm like, whoa, but I was scared on my mind, and they're both like kind of holding on to one of my arms, and they're like, "No, don't be scared. It's okay. We love you. It's like, we love you." I'm like, "No way, I don't think you guys have the wrong person. Like, there's a Chris Batts out there. Like, maybe not Chris Batts. There's also a Chris Bosh, basketball player." I'm like, "But I don't know. So maybe you have the wrong Chris. You don't know what I've been doing. I haven't read the Bible." He's like, "No, like, we love you, everything. Like, everything's going to be okay. Don't be scared." They said, when empty your mind of everything you've ever known, we're going to teach you what you need to know. So that's literally, from that moment, I emptied my mind of everything I've ever known. And literally everything, talking to walking to so much stuff, like I started learning how to do like all over again. But it was just different. It was more like different than before. I felt like born again or something like that. And it's like you're more like in your spirit world now. So they're like, "Okay, look down." I look down, and then I see like the ambulance. I see all these lights, and then the friend I'm with was way over, like far away on their phone. And I'm like, how am I seeing them on their phone? I'm seeing my body laying there, and then I'm seeing like all these people trying to revive me. Like, hello, I'm right here. I'm thinking like they can see me from where I was, but like, oh wait, I'm in the sky. I'm like, so this stuff really does happen. So then they're like, "No, look again." And I forgot to mention, the one on my right-hand side was telling me like in the softest voice, "You have so much to do for so many people." That part right there, I don't even know how I forgot to mention that. That part right there was when I looked at him, I'm like, "Me? Yeah, you." So then that's when they told me to look down. So I looked down and see everything. But as soon as I look back up again, they're like, "No, look again." Once again, I guess angels, they're smart. They know your personality. I had major trust issues. If I would have went back in my body at that point and not only looked down once, I would have never told my NDE because I would have thought it was a hallucination the whole time. So they know that. So that's when they're telling me, they're like, no, look again. You need to see that this stuff really happens. I look, and then it zooms in like a camera, like closer. Here's my friend on their phone, and here's my body. Here's the paramedics and everybody over me and everything. And I look, I'm like, how does that happen? So I felt this urge to go back, and I seen this like what I call a donut hole. It was in the shape of a hole inside of one of the clouds. Had I crossed over that, which I had a choice, had I crossed over that, then I would not have came back probably. So that's probably, maybe they were trying to convince me, like, no, don't go yet. Just, you have a lot to do for a lot of people. Okay, I gotta go back. And from then, I woke up in the hospital like a couple days later, and because the nurses said I've been out for a couple days, but as soon as I woke up, I just seen all these nurses like stunned and like, oh my God, the miracle, and I'm like, the miracle, like, wait, what miracle? I'm like, is this Jello? Like, can I have this? They're like, yeah, you can have the Jello. All right. I didn't really know what happened. So a few days later, I got out of the hospital, and then I was being wheelchair because my senses were shot. All I knew was just Jello. I'm like, Jello, you know? So as soon as I was wheelchaired out of the hospital, I looked at the concrete, and that's when I got this familiar feeling again. And I'm like, whoa, it was like deja vu when I seen the concrete. And then I looked up in the sky, and then I seen the horizon. I seen how clear it was, and the sun. The sun reminded me of that face. I had to look away. But I didn't really understand what happened. But during recovery, months and months later, I ended up figuring it out. Like, oh, okay. I looked it up on the internet and everything. I'm like, people who died just like I have, you know. But then I found out it was a near-death experience.
You talked about being angry at God. I wonder how this experience, what it taught you about forgiveness. I realized that some of the emotions that you had before were something that you had to face in your NDE. And I wonder how you came out the other end of that.
Well, yeah, I just like, before my NDE, I was very like angry, and like I was like a lover at heart. Like I always had a lot of love in me, but still it was like a lot of anger. I was just mad, like quick, like all the time. And I felt like injustice, but after I had my NDE and I actually seen angels, other people can't say that. So like when I realized like, well, I've actually seen angels, and I came back to tell it, after that I started feeling more happy, more at peace, more spiritual, and I started getting that feeling of love like I've been longing for since I was little. With that, it helped me to see other people differently and to understand people and not just get so mad all the time, like, you know. But I mean, of course, after my NDE, the way I think I know what she did was horrible, but I'm more like, the way I think now is just different. I'm more like, I feel bad that whatever she's dealing with here, she felt like she had to do that. And she probably suffers for that thought every day of her life. That she has a kid out there she knows nothing about. She was mean to him every time she's seen him. I'm like, she has to battle that like every day.
It feels like you were very lonely before you attempted suicide. Do you have any words for people who are thinking about it?
Yeah, that's one of my goals, is to try to deter people from those thoughts. There's so much positive in the world, and we should focus on that. Like, yeah, there may be a couple negatives, but I guarantee you there's something positive that you can say in your life.
Have you met other NDEers who have attempted suicide in the NDE community? And do you share the same experience, or are there different experiences than yours? Can you learn from each other's experiences?
I've met many NDEers, but as far as suicide, near-death experiences, I've met about one or two. I can't remember their names because it was briefly, but they had the the same experience that I have, like with the love that they received, and they weren't judged, and they were the only ones who judged themselves. Like me, I was constantly judging myself, but I didn't want to burn.
If you knew all the things you know now, would you still try to attempt suicide?
No, definitely not. I would have, because my mind would have been different. I would have been a more positive thinker. I would have been looking at a positive situation, or the positives of a situation, instead of just the negatives of a situation. Because like, I believe that if you think something negative, you're going to make a negative decision. Then it's like, if you think a positive thing, you're more likely to make a better decision. So if I had known what I know now, I definitely would have been a more positive thinker.
Maybe more forgiving to yourself.
Oh, definitely more forgiving for myself.
Yes, yes.
As far as forgiveness goes, which again is a very, very big part of your NDE, today, do you think that forgiveness is important for the one who is receiving the forgiveness, or for the person who's forgiving?
I think it's more important. It's important for both, but I think it's more important for the forgiver more. The reason why is because there are certain people you can forgive and they just don't care, because their emotions, they just really don't have any like feelings, like compassion. There are people like that, but it's on your part. It's going to bother you if they're sleeping at night and you're there worrying about what's going on. Now, if you forgive this person and let it go, whether they like show compassion about it or not, it doesn't matter. Like, you did your part already, so your conscience is clear.
You didn't discuss it now, but I've heard you talk about reincarnation. And I wonder, from your NDE story, where you gathered this information, and if you can explain a little bit about that.
Okay, so my NDE actually has nothing to do with any thoughts of reincarnation. Like, there was nothing during my NDE that was said about reincarnation. It's just that with knowing spiritual people, knowing other experiencers, and you start learning stuff, developing stuff, and get stuff from your own angels and stuff like that. I've always had this dream since I was little, like a vision. And since I was about 5 years old, and I always had this dream. And it started from when I was in the womb up until I was like 35 or 40, something like that. And there was just certain visions in, and part of it, I seen a couple past lives that I've had. Visions of past lives. So it makes sense the way my life is now, because I was a horrible person in these couple lives. So it's like, this life, all the stuff that I do care about, I didn't care about then. So I'm like, maybe my karma was like, I'm coming back here trying to get it right this time.
You said in one of the encounters with the angels, they talk about the importance of words. Can you tell us more about it?
Words are very, very, very important. Like I said, some people don't think words have power, but they do. Like, literally, when you say a word, there could be like a spirit that comes out of that word. So it's like, if you show emotion with the word and you're like, damn you, right? And it could be in a negative way. Like, anything negative, it's going to attract negative. But if you're like, I want to be like you, damn you, I love you, that type thing, it's more like it's put out in a positive way. It's like, it's not really like sometimes like what you say, but it's like how you mean it.
Where your
intention lies.
Exactly
your intentions.
Can you tell us a little bit about your work with the children? I understand that you work with kids now, and I wonder if something in your experience, in your NDE experience, pushed you towards this work.
Nothing in my near-death experience told me about working with special ed kids, but I, for some reason, started getting different interests after my NDE, because I was doing something completely different. I was hauling, doing all this hard labor stuff, and after my NDE, brain just switched and was like, I want to do something else. So I started being a crossing guard and working, you know, with the kids. And I started seeing all like the special ed kids, and I was like, I want to be with them. Like, I've always felt like a connection to them. So that's when I just tested and I just got involved in the special ed, and I've been there for years, and I don't really want to leave my special ed kids.
I'm going to go back to the NDE for a minute. I would like to ask you if your experience has taught you anything about what happens to us here, if you feel that things are predestined and if we have free choice, how much power we have in our decisions and in our life, into where this power is, in what situations do we use it, and how it affects others.
I think we do have some power, like free will and stuff like that. And like I said, it has like a lot to do with decisions. I mean, your conscience. So like we all live battling our conscience, like, and we don't even realize it. It's just like a battle of your conscience every single day. And I think honestly, like a lot of the decisions we make are self-made, even if it's a mistake or whether it's not a mistake, you know, like we still make these decisions. I think like being in, like more in the spiritual world though, it's a little bit, you think a lot harder before you do things. You're a lot more careful now because you don't want to hurt someone with the decision you might make.
What are the ramifications of us hurting somebody here in this realm?
Most people who actually do like cross over into that donut hole I told you about, most people, like before they cross there, they have a life review. So they see good and bad, and they feel the good and bad that they've done to certain people. So it's like, that's a motivation that I have. Like, I don't want a bad life review. So I just like want to be like really good. I really want to like love as much as I can now, which I mean, it makes sense.
There's something really interesting, I feel, that you said when you talk to the source and you ask the source to come back here so that you can, I guess, regroup or regain or become better. And the source told you you're perfect the way that you are. And
I love that.
That's really,
I love that.
I think that's the most amazing part of your NDE.
Yes.
And the thought that we can fix things here. When we leave this realm, it's harder to fix because here is the place where you can actually work. The reason that we feel, you know, all these emotions is because here we can fix them and understand them. And everything that happens to us is, you know, a road to understanding ourselves and others better, even if that road sometimes means anger, resentment.
Yeah, I feel like we honestly come here to maybe do things we can't do like at home, you know, like in paradise at home. So we come here to like experience all the emotions. We try to like mend relationships, or like, what is it like to be in a relationship with someone, like to marry someone? What's that like? Let me go to Earth and find out, you know, like, what is it to be poor? I want to go to Earth and find out, how do these people like feel like that? So it's just like certain things we come back for. And then I feel like I said with mine, I felt like I came back to this one to say like, you know what, I want to fix those couple, or from what I know, those couple of lives that I know about, I want to like not make those mistakes in this life.
How can we talk about universal truths? There are some things we all experience as positive things, as things that we would like to live by. And the other side of this is, of course, you know, all these things that stop us from loving, that stop us from experiencing. Is there something that, you know, of you as an NDE, a message?
The world needs love. That's all. I mean, I really came back here with that. The world needs love. Everybody needs love, no matter who you are. You could be the most toughest person in life, but deep down inside, when you're at night by yourself, you're probably like saying, I wish I was loved. So it's more like, everybody needs love, and to get, like, even like to make someone laugh, they're having a bad day, that just might be something they just really needed, which might like a chain. Like this person is on the verge of hurting someone, and then they happen to run into you, and then you say something crazy that outlandish that they don't expect, and then they laugh and go, you crazy, and then they go on and they have more patience for this person that they were about to hurt. So it's like they help that person, and it's like a chain. Everybody's like a link for the next person.
Okay, let's play again.
Association game.
I'm gonna give you a word, and you just give me a word in return.
Okay.
Light.
Spirit.
Angels.
Wisdom.
Kids.
Love.
Forgiveness.
Important.
God, source, the creator.
Love. Compassion.
Life purpose.
To make sure everybody knows they're loved.
Religion.
Cult.
Music.
Passion.
This was really amazing.
Yeah.
It was such a pleasure to know you and to meet you.
I could show it for the people that are watching.
Yes, please do.
Yeah. The Life and Times of Suicide Near-Death Experiencer. If you've heard of Trisha Barker, she also wrote a review on the back of it.
Chris, it's amazing. Thank you so much. I'm sure that, that we will speak again and hopefully somehow meet.
I hope you can feel our hugs from here. Thank you for being with us.
I do.
Thank you.